All right, welcome to the ProMotion studio. Today we're joined by Mr. Brandon Fulson. Brandon, thanks for coming by.
It's good to be back, man.
Absolutely, we're
Yeah.
glad to have you. And 2020 has been a busy year for you. I mean, in
It
spite
has.
of all of this going on.
It's been the best of times and the worst of times.
Yeah, that's what they say.
But yeah,
You've been hard at work. You've been streaming just about every week.
yeah,
a couple times.
We started doing a. I ended up calling it the kitchen table series because
Yeah.
I just started off sitting down at my table and live streaming from there. Kind of built up a little bit of a, following on that, and had people tuning in every week, so that was cool. And ended up, making money doing it. A lot of people, and I'm very thankful to everybody out there that tipped. That got me through the first part of the pandemic. When the pandemic first hit, that really got me through it.
And you were a bit of an old hand at that. You'd kind of been posting videos like
Yeah.
that for a while, even before it became in vogue.
Yeah, I had done it for a while, but it was one of those things where, I would just, for instance, okay, here's a song I did. I might go live for one song or two songs or just a few minutes. But this was like, okay, now I've got to do a show.
Yeah.
And then over time, it just sort of became a show. At first, it was really weird having the phone in front of me, looking at myself, and I would try to read comments and sing, and I'd forget the words. Finally, I was like, look, guys, I'm not being rude, but I can't read the comments. If somebody requests a song and I miss it, I'm sorry. But as it went along, after a couple of months of doing it, I got to where I could kind of, block it out and read it and remember it.
Well, it's certainly a learning curve, but you were able to, make it work to your benefit.
Yeah, it really did. And then I started writing songs about the time everything shut down. And before, the albums I made in the past, like for instance, Dark Side of the Mountain in 2016 or Forgotten Appalachia in 2018, that was like in my mind, both was a continued story. There was a concept there. So I went back and dug through my songs to tell the story I wanted to tell. So there's songs on there that was fresh and new. There were songs that was 5 years old, songs that was 10 years old, just whatever I felt told the story. But this go around here with this album here, I ended up writing about nine songs in like about the first 2 weeks of that pandemic, just being locked down.
Wow. So all of it on the new album, Roaring 20, go pick it up now. It's out now. So that's all stuff you wrote this year?
All brand new stuff I wrote this year, yeah. There's some co-writes on there with some buddies of mine. I got on a roll, and then some of my friends noticed that, hey man, I got an idea, and we just kind of rolled with it. Wrote the first 9 in probably 2 or 3 weeks, and then when we started recording, I ended up writing 2 more that I threw on at the very end.
That's awesome, man. And right now, I was just having this talk with somebody else, right now is when those artistic juices should be cooking, man.
I think so.
A lot of people are sitting on their hands, but I can't understand why you wouldn't take advantage of this time to just hone your craft.
That's how I looked at it, because I had a lot, I signed with you guys. I think I signed with you guys the day that they closed down Tennessee.
Just about.
And we were going like, oh, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
But I just remember at that time saying, well, we're just going to go forward, regardless. And I think that's what you have to do, is just keep moving. And so we tried to find ways to just stay creative and stay on top of it.
And the way that you recorded this album, a little bit different than the way that you had in the past.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, again, it was right there at the start of the pandemic. Everybody was still in lockdown, and I talked to John Baker about it, and told him I said, man, I got 9 songs ready. I'm ready to come record. I'm dying to get in the studio. And he said, well, right now, I don't want to really record vocals in the studio just because John's studio is an open room. Just one big open room. And he said, but if you could find somewhere, or do it at home, find somewhere where you could sit down with an acoustic guitar, metronome, and your vocal. He said, then record those and ship them over to me. He said, then we can build them right here in the studio and wouldn't have to sing.
Right.
So a buddy of mine in Huntsville, Tennessee, Odell Brummett, he's got a studio up there, and it's got booths. So I was able to just go up to his studio, get in a vocal booth, lay down the 9 songs, and then we shot them over to John, and then we started building them. And I'd never done it that way before. And honestly, to be honest, I was like, this is probably going to turn out terrible, because I was just afraid. Like, I'm so used to having the band in the studio and looking at each other, and I was like, well, here we go. But what happened was I put the songs down with just me and an acoustic guitar, and Brian comes in to put the drums on it. And I'm not expecting, I don't really know where it's going to go. I have no idea where this record's going to go. But in my head, I'm thinking, he's probably going to come in and just kind of play some light brushes, because all I'm hearing is an acoustic guitar. I don't necessarily hear a band, you know what I mean? So he comes in and just starts wailing on the drums as though he's at the show. And then I was like, whoa, that sounds really good. Then John put the bass on, and I was like, man, it's starting to sound like we're back out live playing. So we just kind of all got inspired. I'm like, well, I can throw electric guitar on this. And then my buddy Chad Money, who's we grew up together, but he's living up in Louisville, Kentucky now. He just happened to be in town one day. I was like, hey man, what are you doing? I was like, well, I'm actually recording. You want to come and do it some with me? And he brings his keyboard and harmonica. So it all just kind of come together like that. And the one thing I wanted to, I was like, I hope when this is over, it sounds like a band play, and it does. I mean, when we were done, Gray at the studio, Gray Comer, engineer, he's like, it's like, if I didn't know any better, I think you guys were just sitting in here grooving.
That's awesome.
And that's what we wanted.
Yeah, that's the idea. And, I think a lot of this has given people a new idea of what it is to be collaborative.
Yeah.
It's changed that collaboration process a lot.
Absolutely. And I think something, too, that it did is it kind of stopped everybody in their tracks. I think about everybody I've talked to said it caused them to kind of stop and reflect on what they were doing in general. Mm-hmm. And me, myself, I was kind of getting to a point where I was just really burnt out on everything. I was just kind of like, man, I've been beating my head against the wall for so many years. I was pretty burnt out. Then I met up with you guys, and you guys started kind of getting me inspired again, like, okay, let's do something.
Right.
Then the pandemic hit, and it was almost like, before I was about ready to tap out.
It's easy to have taken that low road and just be like, well, whatever.
Exactly. But then when you're told, hey, you can't do this anymore, you're like, well, no, wait a minute. Hell no,
yeah.
I'm not quitting.
I was just getting started.
I didn't really mean that. So it's like, so then I think that's what really helped the creative juices, and then the collaborating, it was all done different. But it's been a different year, but I still think at the end of the day, it's been a really bad year for a lot of people, and we've lost some good people. But I think at the end of the day, we had to just keep going forward.
And just knowing how you write, the way that you approach topics more sensitively than I guess, I say sensitively, it's you have a tactful way of approaching these things,
Yeah, thank you.
I'm just curious to hear what you've got to say, and based on the album title, I know it's probably not all just vitriol and hate about this year. You're telling stories because you're a storyteller.
Yeah, and it's not all that, but it's, I think, for instance, like the other two albums I mentioned earlier, they were stories. That some of them was historical pieces. I'm writing about a time, a long time ago. But this was, everything I'm writing about is fresh, happening right now.
Right.
And so there's a song that kind of started it called Hoarding Toilet Paper, and that song started back when everybody was going out and buying up the toilet paper.
I remember seeing you post that video, and it went
so
viral because
of
the content, because everybody knows that.
And that's something I've kind of, here lately, I've just kind of been trying to stay alert. Like when a hot topic's out there, I try not to, I want to shoot right down the middle and try to make people think. I don't want to come out, blazing on one side or the other. I just want to kind of shoot down the middle and have both sides going, I didn't think of it that way.
Well, that's how the best, comedians, pundits, anything like that, they don't, it's not about taking a side, it's just about making people think.
Exactly. That's the angle I've always tried to take. So I had that song on there, and then there's also a song that me and a buddy of mine, Josh Bearden, co-wrote. He sent me the idea. It's called If a Rooster Pulls a Plow. Yeah. And it's, and I ended up being one of the essential workers that didn't get a break. I had to keep on working. And it's about just this boss that just rides your ass all the time, and what the punchline is. My friend said, man, I was arguing with my boss the other day, and he said, finally my boss looked at me and said, listen, don't you argue with me. If I tell you a rooster pulls a plow, you just hook it up. And so he said, man, when he said that to me, I thought of you instantly, and I thought, if anybody can make a song out of it, you can.
That's
and I was like,
awesome.
Absolutely, because I believe I know that guy. So there's stuff like that. So there's stuff for the people that was locked down. There's stuff for the people that were essential, and there's a song on there called John Prine Moon about the passing of John Prine.
One of the greatest losses of this century, man. I mean, one of the best songwriters ever.
One of my idols, man. And I didn't realize how hard that one was going to hit me. It's one of those where I knew how much I looked up to him and admired him, and I knew I'd heard for a while he was in bad health, but like when he was gone, it was because you always look forward to his take on things. You're waiting for him. Sort of.
Just for a quick little interview line or anything. You don't even got to write a song about it. When he writes a song about it, it's important.
It is. But if you just look for a little interview clip.
Yeah, just something.
Yeah. So it was like I went outside that night that he passed away, and I was just floored. And went outside and I looked up at the moon, and it was full, just like a perfectly full moon. And I was thinking, I'll never be able to see a full moon again without thinking of John Prine. And that's when the song hit my head. So all these songs are current, and I think that's what I like about it. When I listen back to it, that's what I'm most proud of, is how it's the first time I've made an album where everything was fresh and current, and I wasn't necessarily trying to tell a story of any historical importance. It was just happening in the moment.
Yeah, people got to hear it. I mean, pick up the new album, Roaring 20. He's put in a lot of work on it. I mean, and I think it just resounds with the sentiment of the year.
Well,
I think with what a lot of people feel towards the year.
Thank you, man.
And also, you've had a successful radio show on Real Knoxville Music.
RealKnoxvilleMusic.com, yeah. That's another thing that a buddy of mine, Chris Lamb, started. And he started it, I think he started it back in January, February, and then, again, everything
Things just
hit.
went.
But it was like, well, let's make something of this. This is another outlet. What I really enjoyed about it was creating my own show, and it airs every Tuesday on RealKnoxvilleMusic.com, and it's at 8 p.m. I usually go 8 to 10, and from time to time I'll have guests on. If I don't have a guest, it's just me sitting there playing DJ.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed being on the other side of it. I've had a good time. I've had John Baker on the show. I've had Barry Pohana on the show, different people I've played with over the years. And it's so much fun to be the guy on the other side. I like being in your chair.
Well, because very rarely is a musician not a fan of music.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And that's one of the things, too, is I was like, whoever I invite on this show, I'm going to make sure I'm a fan of them. If I'm not a fan of them, I don't really want to talk to them. Because I want it to be more,
You got to have that dialogue.
You got to have the dialogue. Yeah. You and I have always had that. And I thought a lot about you when I first started. I was like, okay, now put yourself in Josh's shoes. Because you had just got done interviewing me for the first live session. And I'm like, okay, now I'm about to interview somebody. So I really enjoyed being in that chair. And I also enjoyed just sitting back and being DJ and playing songs and going, hey, this is Barstool Romeos and this is Mick Harrison. And when we're playing like Knoxville music in East Tennessee, we play the Tri-Cities. We even play Chattanooga, which is the eastern side of Tennessee.
That's one of the fun things about a show like that is you can play the bands that you've played with, the ones that you grew up listening to.
Yeah.
When it's your call, you can play what you like.
You can play what you want to, and then there's been people putting out music right left.
And you're doing a great job with it, man. You're a phenomenal host.
Well, thank you, man.
And you've got a personality that's it's so genuine. You don't come off as putting on airs for anything or anyone.
Thank you.
And that's just endearing to anybody that listen to the show. You're going to hear bands you love. You're going to hear maybe bands you hate. But you're going to hear it all honesty and from the truth from this man right here.
I appreciate that.
And yeah, absolutely, man. Anything else?
Well,
you've had a big year and you still got a lot going on.
I've had a big year, still got a lot going on, and just playing as much as I can. And heck, I'm already back recording other songs because I'm still writing.
That's
so
perfect.
We've already jumped back in the saddle.
So you might have another one done for.
I could have. Who knows? I mean, hopefully, I'm on a pretty good roll again. It usually hits me in spurts, and I think from now on, after this album, it kind of changed my perspective. I'm like, you know what? From now on, I get about 7 or 8 songs. I'm heading to the studio with them.
Yeah, don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it. Just go in there and do it. It's so much more fun that way.
Right on, man.
Absolutely.
Brandon, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, and check him out, BrandonFulsonMusic.com, and you can get the new album Roaring 20 out now. Tune into the radio show, Serious Honk, RealKnoxvilleMusic.com, 8 p.m. Tuesday nights, playing the best local regional music you're going to find. Brandon, thanks again.
Thank you.
Check him out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, follow down below. That way you don't miss another ProMotion live session.